What's good? What's good? What's good, fan? Thank you guys for tuning in to this week of the Sunday Special. We are in the middle of the what do they call them? The dog days of summer, Cleveland. Where not only is it 95 degrees down here in Alabama, it's 95% humidity, Cleveland. What you guys got up there?
Cameron, we got 62, partly cloudy and quite windy.
That sounds so nice. It sounds so nice to have some fresh air. Where you can go out there and clear your lungs, and you don't have to have any uh, instruments to help you clean your lungs. Because boy, I tell you, down here, my goodness. Cleveland, big week, man. We got a lot to talk about this week. And more, I got more stuff on our agenda than I typically do for Sunday. The Sunday special. Thank you guys for tuning into the Sunday special. Give yourself a round of applause. Also, fans, we get hundreds, not thousands, not quite thousands. We get hundreds of views per week on the show, Cleveland. And fans, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking you guys for $1 yet. I'm just asking you to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and then tell a friend or tell a friend about the show. We appreciate. I enjoy bringing you guys content. This is kind of cathartic, for Cleveland and I. We have talked about that live on the air. I enjoy bringing the content. This is kind of the water cooler conversation, but hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let us know how you are consuming the show. Are you on your morning jog, or you listen to the podcast on your while you go grocery shopping with the kids? How do you listen to the podcast? Let us know that, and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, tell a friend, tell a friend. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Give yourself a round of applause. Let's give Cleveland a round of applause for his participation and his consistency on the show. I know he gets sick of me sending me emails and asking him what he want to talk about. But thank you, Cleveland, for sticking with us. We got a lot to talk about this week. And Cleveland, you might not be exactly happy about what I'm about to say, but we need to talk about it. We need to get your feedback. JJ Redick, Mr. Douchery himself, is going to be. It has been signed as your new head coach. Now you try to duck and dodge and didn't want to believe it and thought we were telling jokes, but it's official now that JJ Redick will be your new coach. How many years of experience does he have in the league coaching? Let me help you out, Cleveland. That'd be zero. Um, are you able to go from playing the game to actually coaching the game? How often has that been successful, Cleveland? Let's talk about a few names who've done this, who just attempted to do this. Cleveland, are you a fan of Mr. Doc Rivers?
I'm not a fan of
I know you're not a fan of Doc Rivers, but he played the game, and he's now had a long time career, at this. Uh, both being on the microphone as JJ was, uh, calling game for ESPN to be specific, and he's coached a few. You know, he's been around a couple places in the different cities in the NBA. Did he win a championship on his initial team that he coached with as a rookie head coach?
Yes, he did, Cameron.
No, he didn't win a championship in Orlando. He didn't win. That was his first stop, was Orlando, right? I think Orlando was his first stop as the head coach. He didn't win a championship.
Okay, then no, he didn't win a championship there. Yeah, now that you mentioned it, Doc has coached an awfully a lot of different places. So,
who else comes to your mind as first time head coach? Steve Nash. How did Steve Nash do when he went to go coach in Brooklyn? When the players were telling him that he didn't need a head coach, how'd that go?
Went horribly. It's a horrible experiment.
Okay. Let's think. Who else has been out there who went from the bench to the front seat of the bench? How's Ty Lue doing, Cleveland?
He hasn't fared that well since not coaching LeBron James, one of the top 5 basketball players in the history of basketball. But when he was coaching LeBron, he went to 4 consecutive NBA championships in a row.
So are we anticipating 4 consecutive NBA championships in a row for Mr. Steve Kerr, or excuse me, Mr. JJ Redick?
No, we're not anticipating that at all, Cameron. We're hoping that it's just not a dumpster fire that it could potentially turn into.
So I mentioned Steve Kerr kind of a little too quickly. A lot of people are saying that this is a Steve Kerr comparison. Like this is a Steve Kerr. There's some similarities there in Cleveland. Do you want to clear up any misconceptions about that comparison with Steve Kerr?
Sure. For one, Steve Kerr was coached by Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich, two of the best coaches to ever do it. Steve Kerr played with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, two of the best to ever do it, in addition to Tim Duncan. So a lot more experience to draw from, and a lot more opportunity to kind of share his wisdom of success. I mean, Steve Kerr won 5 championships as a player. So
Wait, you're telling me that playing with Chris Paul isn't the same as playing with uh
Michael Jordan or Tim
Scottie
Duncan?
Pippen?
No, that's not a fair comparison. No.
Are you telling me playing with Joel Embiid in Philadelphia isn't the same? Joel Embiid and Blake Griffin isn't the same as playing with any of those aforementioned champions that you mentioned?
No, it's not the same at all.
Okay. One thing you also left out is that, again, and this is just to dispel any comparisons or Cleveland's thoughts in his head that this could be a Steve Kerr revitalization or simulation. Is Steve Kerr actually ran an organization in Phoenix? Now, so the success they had is a different argument, but Steve Kerr actually ran an organization before he became a head coach, and then he had options when he decided to stay on the West Coast versus go to the Big Apple. You know, that was on the table. He had options, so he decided to go clean up some of the mess that Mark Jackson has made. So Cleveland, what is your how will this play in the locker room before we get to your anticipation? How will this play in the locker room? Since his, I guess, let me ask you 2 questions. Does the podcast continue? Does the podcast he and LeBron James do currently do? Does this continue? And how does this play in the locker room? Now, does Rui Hachimura, is he looking side eye at Steve Kerr is he looking side eye at JJ Redick when Redick pulls him out the game, and LeBron's giving him the signal from the bench, like yank this guy out or bring this other guy in, bring 1-3 in, or those little sign signals that LeBron does with his podcast host. Does this how does this play in the locker room?
It doesn't play well, Cameron. I mean, fortunately, this team is fairly youthful, with not a whole lot of veterans. Obviously, LeBron being the elder statesman of the squad.
Oh, so they don't even have a voice, is what you're saying? Their voice doesn't even matter. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, what I'm saying is that it would probably be a little bit more difficult of a transition if the players were older, because they've played with JJ or played against JJ, and 2, that rah stuff just doesn't come across the same way. So because the team is younger, that actually is a little bit more of an opportunity for him to be a little bit more successful, and to maybe have his message, resonate a little bit better. But at the same time, it's painfully obvious that he's in way over his head. And that
he hasn't even drew up a play yet. He hasn't even drew up a play. And if you listen to their podcasts and their OTAs, out of timeout plays, like they sound pretty thorough in his decision making. Him and LeBron seem to be on the same page. I don't know if you listened to any of their podcasts or heard any of these reviews. Like you can't just say that he hasn't even called a timeout yet, Cleveland. Don't be so harsh so quickly.
Yeah, I know that you're loving this, Cameron. The fact that this is going absolutely nowhere, and this is going absolutely nowhere from a coaching perspective. And I hope that the podcast does not continue. Do they have time to do that? I mean,
They're gonna be on the buses and they're gonna be on the buses and the planes together. I mean,
I
there's a lot of
I
time
know
on
LeBron
vacation.
makes time for it, but I'm hoping that JJ is a little bit too busy to be podcasting at this point. So if he's doing both, then yeah, I'm extremely concerned.
What you think JJ is gonna be up all night, kind of scouting teams and looking at plays and coming up with concepts to
No,
beat their opponent?
JJ's far too arrogant to be up all night trying to do something like that. But at the same time, hopefully, his time is a little bit more limited than having an opportunity to do a podcast every. I don't know how often they did it, but yeah, let's not be doing that in the middle of the season, please.
Cleveland, man, I think you're not giving JJ his proper respect right now. Right off the bat, you're calling it a failure and talking about how bad this is gonna a bad look this is gonna be. Again, man, I think you ought to I think you ought to kind of dial that back a little bit and at least give your man half a season. He didn't get half a season with you.
No. Mm-mm.
Wow, wow. That's kind of I mean that's kind of presumptive, don't you think?
I really don't. I mean, I the logic is that wow, he sounds really articulate and eloquent on the on the game cast, and talks a good game on the podcast, and that really shouldn't be enough to make you a head coach. This is certainly relationship driven more than anything, and so
who you know is who knows you. There's a misconception out there with a lot of people, Cleveland, that is not what you know, but it's who you know. Cleveland, it's who knows you is uh, not what you know, who you know. It's who knows you. You just clear that up. I was told by that. I was told that by a big time executive. It's not what you know, who you know, is who knows you. So you gotta get your name known, and clearly working for ESPN, doing this podcast with your guy LeBron James. A lot of people know who he is, so this door is kind of swung open for him. Last question for you on the topic, unless you want to add anything else, Cleveland. I'm gonna open. Well, before I get to my last question, the floor is yours. Go. The floor is yours, Cleveland. Go ahead and let the fans truly know what you feel about this. The direction Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka and Kurt Rambis's wife is going with this franchise. Let the people know.
Well, the direction that they're going with this is to make their star player as happy as is humanly possible, so that their star player stays in Los Angeles and continues to be someone that drives the brand. With regards to what it is that he's capable of doing, I am not supremely confident that he's going to be all that successful as a head coach. My hope is that they put a lot of really smart, talented minds around him, so that
Rajon Rondo. What do you think about Rajon Rondo joining the sideline? I think that's he's the first in the clubhouse.
So now you're throwing just like far too many different personalities into the mix.
Serious business. Serious business. I think Rajon Rondo is a leader in the clubhouse to be one of the first head coach or first assistant coaches on the sideline.
That's what I'm saying. Rajon Rondo has always had kind of a surly personality about him. JJ is like we have said already, kind of arrogant and douchey. So you throw those two in addition to LeBron, as the de facto coach GM. It would be difficult, if not impossible, to get all those people on the same page. You have far too many different personalities. It's like
Chris Paul and
Draymond, like here every day, like whoa.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Hachimura he don't stand a chance to get a word in edgewise. So does this move signing JJ Redick as a head coach, and let's assume that they go ahead and sign Rajon Rondo as his assistant, does this get them out of the playing tournament?
I think health and free agency gets them out of the play-in tournament. I don't think it's necessary.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think that coaching, I don't think that hiring JJ Redick is some type of magic pill or something that's going to all of a sudden make them super good.
Let's see who was unhealthy that you were counting on last year.
Jared Vanderbilt didn't play at all. The free agency, Gabe Vincent played very little, and they still don't have, an adequate, third scorer.
So I can't talk. About. I can't talk about Derek White being an impact player, but you're allowed to bring up Jared Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I said an impact player. I didn't say he was going to make the difference between winning a championship and not winning a championship. That's not what I said. You said getting out of the play-in tournament.
You give me Jared Vanderbilt and who? Gabe Vincent?
Yeah.
And I can't talk about Derek White being a factor. I can't talk about Desmond Bain. I can't talk about Jaren Jackson Jr., the defensive player of the year. I can't talk about those guys, but you give me Gabe Vincent. All right. Fans, you guys see what we're dealing with, because they got put on a purple and gold. All of a sudden there's some knockdown 3-point shooter and some defensive stalwart because they got on purple and gold. Cleveland, I'm excited for the NBA season to come back around. How excited are you for the NBA season to come back around, Cleveland?
I am extremely excited because this season, I don't want to say for all of its faults and kind of what ifs due to injury, was very exciting.
Vincent and Vanderbilt. Those are the injuries that really concern
I was actually really referring to Joel Embiid and Dame Dollar and Giannis Antetokounmpo, most notably. And your guy Ja over there, Memphis. Your guy Zion over there in New Orleans. Your guy Kawhi over there in Los Angeles. So I was really referring to those players when I was saying that. But I am more interested to see how the league recalibrates itself. I am extremely interested to see if Victor Wembanyama continues his dominance that he had in the second half of the season, how that plays out in the Western Conference. I'm eager to see if Denver was just kind of a one-hit wonder, or if they have kind of the emotional capacity to kind of regroup and recalibrate from, being tested by Ant-Man. Interested to see if the Minnesota Timberwolves stay pat with that squad, or if they make improvements and upgrades. Interested to see if some of these draft picks kind of help teams get over the hump.
So let me bring up Denver. This is kind of off script, but let me bring up Denver for 1 second. You don't like to talk about, it's hysterical that you bring up Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent when you hate talking about role players. You believe role players don't play a part of anything. So this is really hilarious that you bring up those guys. But the Denver Nuggets not signing Bruce Brown, not re-signing Bruce Brown. He walked to Brooklyn for the money, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly. How much did they miss him and what he was in their playoff run? Do you believe they missed him? Was that a factor in them not making because they've been better against Minnesota? Had they had a guy like Bruce Brown who's able to handle the ball, able to play a wing defender, and again, a PJ Washington style player who you give zero respect to. How much did the Denver Nuggets miss Bruce Brown this playoff run?
A little. They didn't get past Minnesota for one reason only, and that's because Michael Porter Jr. was MIA and mentally drained from all of the things that had been going on family wise.
So nothing to do with Bruce Brown.
Okay. I said a little.
Okay. Let me pull this up on the screen. So this week we had did you watch any of the Major League Baseball at Rickwood Field?
I did not. I only watched the passionate speech that Reggie Jackson gave.
Oh, you did see that?
Yeah, that did go viral, and kudos to him. I mean, he is kind of the original I don't want to say cocky athlete, but his famous phrase is, I'm the straw that stirs the drink. So understanding it's cool it was cool to get that perspective from someone, because people always kind of make it seem like when you do these things that you just kind of endure, and that it doesn't take anything out of you, and that anybody could do it. You just have to be kind of, somewhat, heroic to kind of go through all that. And, he was very clear about it. It's like, man, I just didn't have the temperament or the personality to be doing that. It's like, thank goodness it wasn't for very long. And thank goodness he had the support of his owner and coaches and players, which I thought was very cool that, he made it a point to give them credit for kind of helping him through such a difficult time. And you don't really necessarily think of Charlie Finley as that type of a guy. He's always kind of had the reputation of being, a little bit of a cheapskate. And then, when the A's got, incredibly good, couldn't afford all of the players or didn't want to, and traded them all. And so that's kind of been his legacy. But to hear that, he was a stand-up guy, so much so that, if my guy can't, eat in this country club with us, then we'll go somewhere else type of thing is, typically you don't hear that about ownership. And, players, what did he say? They threatened to burn down the building,
that he was staying
the apartment complex, that because he was sleeping on Joe Rudy's couch. It's like, but he didn't bend. That's kind of above and beyond typically what you expect from a teammate. And I'm sure it was very evident that it created a bond and a lasting impression for Reggie Jackson, and a big part of why he was able to do all of that.
So that was a very stirring situation, incidents, man. And being down here in Birmingham, my goodness, I got a few different thoughts on the history and the past here. But here's Reggie Jackson. Here was his exact quote, and I can't believe that the Fox producers anticipated him saying this. I figure bringing Reggie Jackson on, and you know how folks get in their old age, whether it's your grandmother, whether it's your grandpa, so they're at that age where they just don't care. they don't care. The softness, the sugar coating, all that's wore off now. Now you're getting real deal, realistic. Here's what it is, facts from them, heart and feelings, facts, and that's what we got from Reggie Jackson. All the veneer, the softness, the playing for TV, all that was gone. There was all that was gone, and I can't believe that Fox anticipated how he was going to respond, because he brought up the N-word a few times.
Yeah, and you remember it. Sometimes when that happens, you remember the delay and why you have the delay.
Right. Yeah.
So they were pretty quick with it, and then I think maybe somebody got in his ear because he changed it, and
he said the N-word the second day. Hey, Reggie, let's not use that word.
Turned it down. So that was clearly somebody like, hey, I know you're a little excited, but
but here. So I captured. I was listening to it, and I just kind of quoted what he said. Is that when Alex Rodriguez asked him, would you have liked to play in more years here? And he was like, absolutely not. He was like, no, I was done here, and I would have gotten killed here because I would have kicked someone's ass and been hanging from an oak tree. He actually said oak tree somewhere. But he was very honest in his assessment and what it meant for him to play here in Birmingham, Alabama. Now, being here in Birmingham, Cleveland, is weird because the racism, I've been all over the country. Seattle, Georgia, Virginia, Los Angeles, back here down south to Alabama. The racism that we experience in Seattle is quiet, subtle racism. There's no out and out. You can't come here. You can't be in this part of town. It's very subtle. Very, the in the elevator, the lady clutches her bag, or you walk by the car and we don't have this happen, but this happened to me kind of growing up where you hear the door locks when you walk down the street. You and a group of your friends walk down the street. All of a sudden, you start hearing door locks when people in the car. They wait for you to pass before they get out of their car. That type of subtle stuff that happens. Living in Virginia, Cleveland, in Georgia was weird. I was only there for a couple of years, but mentality was different. Living in Virginia, kind of Virginia segregated at the time I lived in Hampton, Virginia. They segregate themselves. Black folks versus white folks. White folks live on this side of town and typically don't come over here. Black folks live on this side of town and typically don't go over there. There was a lot of self-segregation. Maybe that was from the years past and what the history has been, but that was still kind of prevalent when I lived there. I'll never forget. I asked because of the job I had working for the school district, I was all over the city, on each side of the city, and met some school teachers, and she was having a birthday party this particular Friday night. And so I told my guys, yo, let's go over here. The school teacher's having a birthday party. Let's go to the birthday party. The first thing they asked was, where is it at? I was like, oh, in Denby. Denby High School is actually where your guy, Mike Tomlin, went to high school at. But it was in that kind of area. Oh, no, we're not going. We can't go over there because we can't cross over. We can't cross over a particular street. It would be like, they ask where the party's at, and I say in the South End, and they say, no, we can't cross Othello. Yeah. We don't cross Othello. We're not going to that side of town. Like, what are you talking about? Number one, is a school teacher. Number two, this is a free country. last I understood, this is a free country.
You know what else is really dramatic when you have that experience, Cameron, is that you would think that like 5 feet across Othello is not that big of a deal, but it really, really is. Like if you cross that street, it just gets dramatically different for you. And it's like, man, why? And then you start thinking like, why this particular place? And like, why is it so dramatically different? But to be naive to think that it's not, and well, it's a free country and, you know, I should be able to go and do whatever. It's like, no, it literally is that.
There is truth to that, Cleveland. There's a lot of truth to what you just said. And I'll explain it, tell you another analogy here in a second. But this is a school teacher party. I was going, all right, fellas, you guys don't want to go. But that's an example of those guys being from the area segregating themselves. I was going, I went to the school party, had a great time. I mean, I went to the school teacher party, had a great time. Came on home, it was nothing to think about. But another to take that step, to take that thought process even further, is I went on I met a chick again in Virginia. She lived on the east end of Virginia, the east end of town where Allen Iverson grew up, where Michael Vick grew up. Okay, they call it the east end of town. It would be Othello to Henderson is about the size of it. And I go to pick the girl up because we're going to the movies. They had, oddly enough, they had built a movie theater. The street was Mercury for those of you guys in Virginia who know about it. But it would be like they built a movie theater on the north side of Othello in a complex. But I went south of Othello to pick the girl up, and the girl wasn't ready. So I'm sitting there with their grandmother. Grandmother was 80 something years old. I'm sitting there, she watching TV, obviously. I'm sitting on the couch like, okay, hurry up, girl. The grandmother said, where you guys going? I said, oh, we're going to the movies. You know, they just built a new movie theater right on the other side of Othello. It was Mercury, the street was Mercury though. She says, man, you know, I grew up in this area. I lived here for 75 years, and I crossed Mercury one time. One time. Again, another even further example that they segregated themselves in that part of town. because she truthfully did have a pharmacy there. There was there was a clinic. There was a grocery store there. So unless she went to work, she didn't have to leave that area. But I'm thinking, my goodness, how small is your world if you don't cross the street right there? Um, but she, again, example, they segregate themselves in there. I brought that up to just say they give you guys examples of how they segregate in Virginia. Black folks more so segregated themselves. Here I am, a kid from Seattle. I'm although on the other side of the country. You're not really going to tell me where I can and can't go. That wasn't happening in Seattle. I can get on a bus from the South End and go to University District on my own, and there's nothing. The only thing hindering me from is my transfer. Did my transfer run out? That's the only thing hindering me from making that move or making that commute. But here, people aren't going over there, and then that was kind of weird to me. Here in the South, Cleveland, I think and you guys see the quote of Reggie Jackson and him in his uniform there. But here in the South, Cleveland, I personally think in this stint here in the South, I came to Birmingham in 2012 and vowed to never come back here again. Not only because there was nothing going on here, but Reggie mentioned the church bombing that happened, bombed the four little girls at the 16th Street Church, and the Time magazine did like kind of glorified it. Did a feature piece on the killers to kind of glorify the situation. Like there was no response to that. There was no they didn't get in trouble, they didn't go to jail. There was no recourse for that or for them who kind of did the bombing. In fact, they at the Civil Rights Institute across the street from that church, they chronologized that whole event, and still it never said anybody went to jail for that. But that was kind of what was expected. So I'm thinking like, why? I actually went to the church and talked to one of the dudes, and I was like, man, why would you come back here? And it was just like, man, it's home. So people just kind of deal with what it is. Like, I don't know if they don't want to go anywhere. I mean, home is home, but I mean, you gotta. There's no, there's little opportunity here, and if the history is that they're gonna treat you like that, how do you foresee some of that changing? It's likely not going to change. Unfortunately, it's likely not going to change. However, what I do experience on this time around here in Birmingham is a lot of yes sir, no ma'am from people of all ages, and I think it's kind of overcompensating for the history that this town has. I, I just think it's a lot of overcompensation in the attitudes around here. Now, people, whether they've been racist to me specifically, I can't say that I experienced that. I just experienced the overcompensation of what they're trying to do. Being very welcoming. Um, I went to a church. Funny story is, I went to a church. This happened probably a year ago. I went to a church and I was at the wrong church. I didn't know. I'm new here. I didn't know which church to go to, which church to not go to. I grew up Baptist, going to Walker Chapel in the CD. But I went to a Baptist church, and it took you uh, zero point 0.8 seconds to realize I was in the wrong church as soon as I opened up the doors. Right, could sense that instantly. So, but I wanted to just, since I was there, sat and enjoyed the sermon. But when I got out to leave, when it was time to leave, there was three people walked me to my car. Somebody came to meet me at my car. Hey, you can come back anytime. Here's a pamphlet. Here, can I sign you up to be a member of the church? Like, again, overcompensate. No, I don't need all that. I'm leaving. I'm done. And I didn't want to tell them I doubt I'll ever be back, but I'm done. Another guy comes out the front door to meet me out the car. Hey, thank you guys. Thank you for coming. We hope to see you again. Again, I think it was that overcompensation. Kind of, that's what I'm talking about. But what Reggie Jackson, Cleveland, the scary thing about what Reggie Jackson had to say is that was not that long ago. That was 63. That was 63, man. That was not that long ago, man. Not that long ago. again, I think in our This Week in History, it was 68 when they said when Congress made it illegal to to discriminate against redlining and rental properties. That was 68. So that's not that long ago, man. And the scary thing about it is people want to act like it was a lifetime ago, but it really wasn't, man. It really wasn't that long ago that this country was dealing with racism on that level. So I thought it was very touching, very poignant what Reggie had to say. I was glad that the Fox producers allowed him to have his time, have his speech. What's your thoughts on all of that, Cleveland?
Again, like you were saying earlier, I don't think that they, had a heads up with regards to kind of what was going to, come out of Reggie Jackson's mouth, but they were very receptive to it, which is typically something that, especially Fox, it being Fox, wouldn't really necessarily ordinarily entertain. But, I feel it was just kind of like a real special moment, for lack of a better word, to kind of put the whole thing in perspective, and certainly something that the modern day Black man can appreciate and resonate with. It's not, they make it seem like anybody could have just done that, and it takes a special kind of person. It takes a lot of resolve and resilience, and he was perfectly honest about it. I didn't really have it, man.
Right.
Like it was just circumstances that allowed me to even endure it as long as I did. I mean, if it would have gone like 2 more weeks, who knows what would happen? I was at my wits' end then, and young, successful, super confident. Someone would have got beat up. I mean,
that should give more reverence to the Willie Mays, the more reverence to Jackie Robinson, who it is widely known that they didn't bring the most talented Black man to make him to break the color barrier, but they brought the guy who could handle the stress and the insults, and who was more mature and able to endure that. So that should give more reverence to what Jackie Robinson was able to do as he broke the color barrier. In that game, Cleveland, did you watch the game at all? Did you watch the game? I think one of the cool things they did, which was kind of corny, but then as I watched the inning, it was kind of cool to see that they showed the game as it aired in 1953 with the black and white, with the the graphics were, obviously they took the graphics back to the 1953 to where there was very little creativity in the graphics, but they played the full inning that way. I thought that was pretty cool. Did you catch that at all?
I did not catch the game, to be perfectly honest with you, Cam. Like you were saying, I knew it was, from a historic context, a big thing, but, like you're saying, it's 2024 and, the stadium wasn't really, conducive to that. And it seemed kind of like a Field of Dreams kind of a thing. So.
Yeah. They made several modifications to the stadium to get it modern day playing field ready, if you will, but it was still a small stadium. It was still a select. I think outside of the media, probably most of the fans were not Negro nationality. I'd say that. Just, I mean, the tickets, I looked on, the tickets were $800. I mean, for one game, get out of here. But enough of that. It was an event. I'm sorry I missed it. I hate that I missed it, but had I been there, I would actually miss a Reggie Jackson situation. So I wouldn't have heard had I been in the stadium, because I don't think. Well, I know it wasn't played in the stadium. Cleveland, another big moment for hip hop, man. Another big moment for hip hop was Kendrick Lamar and Friends, his pop out concert on Juneteenth in Inglewood, California. Did you see the concert? This was a awesome show of unity between they had Bloods out there. They had Crips out on set performing. After Kendrick Lamar did his "They Not Like Us," I think like 6 times in a row. Everybody came up from Russell Wilson to DeMar DeRozan. All the performers came back on stage, and just it was a good sign of unity for the day. And apparently, this went on. For um, rehearsal, there was a lot of love and unity for Los Angeles. I mean, the Los Angeles put this was another, I say, great moment in hip hop, and a specific moment of unity and show for Los Angeles. They tried to do the truce and what was the truce back in '92. Um, I think that lasted a couple years, but this might last a little further. What was your thoughts on Kendrick Lamar concert and the unity that it showed? You have some experience going to LA a few times, and that's where if you cross the wrong street, where it really gets serious.
Yeah. You most definitely need a chaperone in LA. It's not a place to be naive and just driving around like a tourist and end up at the wrong place at the wrong time. But no, absolutely love the concept. Love the timing of it being Juneteenth. Kendrick Lamar definitely established himself as one of LA's prodigal sons. He made reference to we're still trying to get over the loss of Nipsey. We're still trying to get over the loss of Kobe. And, when you really think about it, he's probably the only person that could really have done that, that people will speak to and listen to and gravitate towards. And right now, I mean, I believe he's at the apex of his powers. So I think it was even more poignant that he was able to do that. Speaks to kind of his character of trying to do something like that. That's a very difficult task in and of itself to even have those people in the same room together. There's just so much history. There's so much loss. There's so much animosity and resentment that, okay, for you, Kendrick, we'll do this. But most people they're not gonna listen to you. They're not gonna come together and put their differences aside just for your show. I mean, who are you? But it just goes to show, well, I'm Kendrick Lamar. I can do that. So I thought that was a very special moment. The crowd was absolutely electric, right? And when he came on and started the set with Euphoria, I mean, it just kind of set the tone for what was to come. And then you realize over time how extensive Kendrick's body of work has become, because he definitely had some bangers, and it probably could have threw a few more in there, but I thought it was a great set. I thought it was sequentially, like the songs that he came out with when he came out with them were to perfection. And obviously this isn't like a Michael Jackson concert or, like where there's a whole lot of, choreography and, visual stuff going on. So, it's a hip hop thing and it's Kendrick, but, he brought the big homie Dr. Dre out. I mean, again, who's Dr. Dre really going to come out for? Like 2 people, maybe, maybe not, so the fact that he came out and, blessed the forum with his presence is, again, speaks volumes about, what Kendrick Lamar represents, especially in South Central LA. And right now, he's the hottest thing going. So I thought it was a win-win for everybody, except for Drake.
Except for Drake. Yeah, Drake. What did he say? Drake had a line in one of his songs. Not to really. Well, I have to touch on it because Drake had a line in one of his songs like, you every time you rap and you try to rap like you're gonna free the slaves, but that just really speaking to who Kendrick's audience is, right? Really speaking to what in the message Kendrick raps with a message versus just going to the party or just dancing around, right? And that's Drake known for just having the club boppers, where you just bopping around. But Kendrick, that's actually big up to what Kendrick is always talking about is something that makes sense, is something that people can absorb, right? Have some conscience and some substance to it, to his raps. Uh, but yes, this was I think in this concert, I mean, is any doubt now that Kendrick holds the crown of hip hop? Now, a lot of people want to put him in the top 3. I'm not going to go that far. No, I'm not going.
Oh no. I mean, hip hop, much like sports, is very subjective and it's generational as well. So when you start talking about all times and best lyrics and all that,
I'm not going right there. I say right now today he holds the crown. He holds the crown right now today.
He holds the crown today, and he's in the conversation of not to dispel anybody's notions about Kendrick. Without getting too deep into it, we would say top 15, right?
Oh yeah, I mean yeah. I mean he's in the top 10. I would say
all time, really.
Yeah, I'd have to say he's in the top 10. Just on a lyricist, and then what he actually the impact. I mean, you have to go.
I'm lazy, so I just say 15, so we don't have to like split hairs about it.
15 without question.
Yeah.
I'd have to say top 10. Some people have in the top 3. I think they're under 30. If you have Kendrick in your top 3, you're under 30. We'll just leave it at that. But it was a fantastic moment. It was a fantastic moment for him. Fantastic moment for hip hop. Fantastic moment for Los Angeles. Like that. Like listen. That concert happened. He went on stage at 5:45 p.m. So he was on stage for 2 hours. He personally performed. No, he was on stage for 50 minutes. So that was over by 7:00. It was so lit that night in Los Angeles. It was so live the rest of the night in Los Angeles. For wherever you went, all bars were open. Everybody's bumping Kendrick Lamar. They Not Like Us. I mean, that's an anthem. That anthem, I wasn't really a fan of California Love, but it was huge because Tupac had just came out, or Tupac just got out of jail. That was his first banger with Dr. Dre. So that was big, right? That was huge. That was big. But I just wasn't a fan.
It's not that great. I mean, and people act like it's blasphemy to say so, but I mean, I like the remix better, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's like, if you're gonna play that, if you're just hit me over and they just hit you over the head with it. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, it was an anthem. Don't get me
like
from Diego to the Bay. I mean, it was an anthem. And I'm a biggest Dre fan as you'll find. And so to say I don't like one of Dre's, hits is it's tough to say, but I have to say that was one song. That was one of the major hits that I just was not a fan of. But it banged. That was just it was okay to me
because everyone was on board with it. Is why it banged so hard.
Not Like Us wipes that off the map. It wipes that off the map. I mean, it's not even. So when Dre is up there and he does, Dre has some mini cuts that he can actually rap, but the couple cuts that he did, and then he said, I hear dead people. Oh my goodness, that song bangs, bro. Nobody in the arena. He played it 5 times, and then it was a song that they played as the show closed down. Nobody was tired of hearing the song. In fact, most of them, I venture to say that 80% of the crowd wouldn't put it on when they got in the car. That's how much that song bangs.
Just to keep the momentum going, right?
That's how much that song bangs. They Not Like Us. And again, to Drake's point, it's a message. It's a message to his fans. Like, and although it's talking about Drake, They Not Like Us, bro. That's a great moment for hip hop. I can't say, Cleveland, I was going to ask you this question. to where do you rank this as a moment in hip hop? I mean, there's been so many monumental moments in hip hop. Like top 5, can you say top? That's a top 6 moment, top 6 or 7 moment. But it was a great moment for hip hop. I'll leave it at that. One thing I want to get to, Cleveland, is we started a new segment, right? What's the name of the new segment, Cleveland?
This moment in sports.
Moment in sports. So we can't play you. We can't play clips. So what I wanted to do here is show you images, and most people know this image, Cleveland, and I want to know what this image. What do you think about when you see that image, Cleveland?
Probably the most surprising moment in sports that I experienced in my youth. I mean, I remember
you weren't that young. They cut it out. They look like you were 12 years old.
No, I was what, 17? 17.
Okay.
But I remember it was so improbable.
Did you watch this?
So funny story. This was on at the same time, and for those that don't know, this is Mike Tyson getting knocked out by Buster Douglas in Japan.
Great.
So this was on at the same time as the slam dunk contest.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know who was going to win the slam dunk contest.
Wow.
But I knew Mike Tyson was going to win this fight. So, and by this point, he had just been punishing and bludgeoning people. It was kind of like just, I don't know, I don't want to say overdone, but it was like a foregone conclusion he was going to win. So it was just a matter of time. But I remember that we kept flipping back and the fight wasn't over. And we kept flipping back and this fight's not over. And then it's like, okay, well, let's watch a little bit of this. And Mike Tyson is not dominating. He's actually getting dominated. And I'm like, well, this is weird. And then
you didn't see Mike knock him out. You didn't see Mike knock him down.
I didn't see Mike knock Buster Douglas down. No, I didn't see that one.
In the long count.
Right. When, Don King is going crazy because he counted too long. But I did see that. And I remember what I remember most about after him reaching for the mouthpiece.
Yeah, that's what this is. The reaching for the mouthpiece.
Is how shocked and stunned Sugar Ray Leonard was, because he was doing the fight and he had this look on his face like, what did I just see? Like he was saying the words, but he didn't believe it. It's like Mike Tyson got knocked out. And it was like this look on his face of just stunned, like silence. Like, what was that? Like, it was a crazy moment. Very crazy moment.
Yeah, so in all truthfulness, great story of memory, recalling the kind of the day. This was your own little June 17th, huh? That's what this was.
But this was in February, right? And so it was just like, it was crazy and I look back now, it's crazy to think that the slam dunk contest had more like allure and like interest than like Mike Tyson knocking out some guy named Buster Douglas. Like, who cares?
Well, this was still like, as you mentioned, you broke it down pretty good. As you mentioned, Tyson was rolling through everybody, even though there was a lot of controversy leading up to this fight. He was still rolling through everybody. The demise had not came yet, right?
No.
And then this is dunk contest was still. The dunk contest was still prominent. It was still one of the major events of the weekend of the NBA year, right? So, yeah, that makes sense that you.
And then you know what's even funnier about the dunk contest is that was the Rex Chapman one, where he came out with the first dunk and everybody was like, "Oh, what was that?"
I mean, Rex Chapman had ups.
Yeah. But it was like so unexpected. Like, oh wow! Like he just came, he went behind his back, cupped it, went behind his, and then just flushed it behind his back. It was like, whoa.
Yeah, Chapman had up. So this particular, I didn't see either event actually. I didn't see either event live. Um, I was in custody with the King County Correctional Facility at the time.
Okay.
So I saw it on the I saw it the newspaper. It was a front page. You know, this image was the front page of the newspaper. Like Tyson went down, and I was stunned. I was like, "No, that's not untrue." And then we was fight. I was arguing for the newspaper. I wanted to read what happened because again, I didn't see the event. So that was my. I have obviously since saw the fight live or watched the video and saw the issues where Don King was arguing about the Buster Douglas getting the 13 count before he was allowed to continue, and then it was later he kind of chopped Mike down. But when I met Buster Douglas, I actually met Buster Douglas before the Tyson Fury fight when I actually got the picture of him. I met him and I just wanted to talk about his thought process going into that fight. And he was like, man, it was just something that I had to do. I had to get done. My whole career worked up to that moment. And that's what I think some people don't realize about in boxing is these guys' career, you work to such a crescendo. And if it doesn't happen, like back then in boxing, he just falls way back to the bottom of the pile, right? It's not like, okay, you lose this year and then next year, you're right back competing for another championship. Not in boxing. Like in boxing, you fall way behind when you take an L. So his like my whole career was hinging on this fight here. So he went in not as prepared as can be, but he said he was ready. He was ready for the fight. And again, that kind of his readiness prepared match combined with Mike Tyson's issues, he wasn't as ready and wasn't as prepared because he was going through the lawsuit with his wife at the time, Robin Givens. So he carried that into the ring. And he carried all those issues out the ring with him.
And to your point, that was the other thing that I remember about this fight when we started watching it, is that this was the first time Mike had ever been hurt. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have like the proper like equipment to like
they had the water balloon over there.
Well, they didn't have like they didn't have like anything for a fighter that ever gets hurt, right? And they had like this weird like ball of like this water they were trying to like get the swelling down. It was like, oh wow. Like they looked like completely like inferior cornermen. Like you didn't even come prepared for if this could happen because it did in your mind.
It hadn't happened in the last 3 years. Well, we're gonna prepare for it.
Why do we need to bring all that stuff? He never gets hurt. I mean, it finally happened, and they had none of that. They had like no experience in like helping a fighter get through a fight.
Yeah, it was wild, but that was the demise of that began the demise of Mike Tyson. And we've seen him fight Vander Holyfield after this, and then he just went downhill. He fought Lennox Lewis, and just not to no avail. But this was a moment in sports that, like I remember this moment, like walking by the newspaper and seeing, like, what, like what? And so I just couldn't wait to read that article, and then much less see the video of kind of what happened there. But yeah, this is a segment, fans. I want to hit you guys with each week, just kind of recapping some of the greatest moments in sports history, Cleavon. Now, Cleavon, last few minutes. Do you want to get in? Do you want to talk about this now, or you want to save this for the full set? Give it the full analysis you may think it needs. But I sent you the clip talking about the stat padding that Michael Jordan was a beneficiary of. And you tell me, you want to touch on that now, or you want to wait to give it the full breadth of energy it needs during the week?
Oh, let's wait and give it the full breath. Give it the full breath. I want Jordan Knights to be prepared. Yeah.
Well, that gives you guys a little insight of what we're going to be talking about on the show during the week coming up. It was interesting. If you guys not have seen the clip, Tom Haverstraw wrote the article about the stat inaccuracies. The only year one player has won the MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year in the same year. How Jordan was apparently getting like 26% more, 26 to 32% more steals and blocks at home than he was on the road during the 1988 season. So we'll have that conversation this week on the show, Cleveland, because Cleveland is tingling inside right now to get to that topic.
I do feel validated. Yeah.
I don't know what validation is.
Validation. It's validation for all of the things that I have been saying for so long.
Again, we're not going to touch on it now, but validation. And we're looking at this is one season out of what his 15-year career.
That's just the one season that they did the research on. They didn't do the research.
But that's and they did it just because that was the one time one player won the most valuable player of the league and the Defensive Player of the Year award. It's only happened one time.
Okay, we will touch on that on Wednesday.
And there's one faction of NBA fans that are so sensitive about this topic, and I just find it peculiar how the two most notable LeBron stands are the ones responsible for doing the work. I just find that a little peculiar and how they're trying to poke out. Because now JJ Redick is the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, which ensures that they won't be going deep into the NBA playoffs. This kind of ensures that LeBron James is going to be stuck at 4 championships versus 5, which Kobe has, Magic, or Michael Jordan at 6. So it kind of leaves him out the argument per se, and they have to go instead of. They're not going to knock down Kobe because, that would be unfair to do to a man who can't defend himself. And they can only go after one guy. And they do it to, unfortunately, I believe their efforts are going to fall short. But it's a good effort, and we'll have this conversation. We'll have the conversation deeper on Wednesday, and you guys can see the
Jordan night.
You guys can see the disgust on Cleveland.
Like a true Jordan night.
No, not really a Jordanite. I was not a Jordan fan. Fans, be honest with you, I was not a Michael Jordan fan. I was riding with the Detroit Pistons, and through their Boston years, and they were finally able to get over Boston. I was happy that they finally won their back-to-back championships and feel that they don't get any respect. And then they beat up the Chicago Bulls for a few years. And so it wasn't until the Bulls were able to get through the Detroit Pistons that they became champions. So they actually made that Chicago Bulls team champions. And when Jordan retired, I was not a fan of Michael Jordan. But when he retired, there was a void in the game, Cleveland. I don't know if you recall this. There was a void in the game. There was a void in the game. And so I asked a few weeks ago, would you rather see one dominant team or do you like the parity in the NBA? I asked you that a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. And that's what this, I wouldn't say, I'm eager to see when LeBron retires, is there going to be that similar void in the game? Will I have that same feeling? Well, I don't even watch the Lakers now. I don't even watch them. I literally don't watch them unless they're playing a team, a team that I enjoy watching. I don't even tune into the Lakers to watch the Lakers because I've seen that movie a few times now. But there was. Do you recall there was a? Would you agree that there was a void in the game when Jordan went to go play baseball?
It's a huge void in the game, Cam. That was kind of when Akeem kind of,
they won back-to-back championships. Akeem was nice. Akeem was nice.
It was like you had been given this thing, this entity, and then you take it away, and it was like a huge letdown. And then you brought it back, and it kind of like recalibrated itself, right? And ever since, the league has been looking for that plug-and-play person. LeBron's as close as they've ever come. Kobe.
I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even say that. LeBron built his way up to what it was. And then when he went to what you like to say, 8 championships in a row, I think that's when he, in the 2011 or whatever, that's when he kind of took that kind of level, if you will. But I would say I was not a Jordan fan, but when I missed him when he was gone, when he went to go play, when he went to retire, and then I enjoyed him the next 3 years. I enjoyed. Can't say I was a Bulls fan or a Michael Jackson. I just enjoyed now watching those next 3 years, those next 3 championships, watching his precision, watching how he took over the league. I'll never forget. Who was this guy? I never forget who Chief was. When the dude had scored 20 points in the first. I want to say it's Kevin Johnson, but I don't think it was Kevin Johnson. Dude that scored like 20 points in the first half of the game and went to the locker room clapping and cheering and with his chest stuck out. And Jordan in the second half, I think dude ended up with 21 and Jordan had like 45 in that game. Just came out. He was actually murdering guys. Like one dude came down and did like a turnaround back up and turnaround jumper on him and went down court cheering and clapping and clapping him for Jordan. Looked at him. It was like, oh, really? And then just came back with 15 straight points on that one guy who was defending him. Like it.
Okay, that sounds like a Jordan Knight story. But here's another story that I still don't think people understand how cruel this was.
Oh boy, plays. Oh my goodness, plays noticeably better when they originally inspected. Okay, but how cruel? Go ahead, Cleveland.
Cat named LeBradford Smith played for Washington. Hit Jordan for 36. Didn't really say anything about it, right? Jordan makes up.
Oh yeah.
Story saying that LeBradford Smith said all this stuff about him, so he hit him for 30 in the first half just to let him know that 36 didn't mean anything.
Right.
And I remember them asking LeBradford Smith about this, and LeBradford Smith licked the reporter straight in his face. He's like, "Man, you think I really said that?"
Right. Well, no, that was MJ.
Really said that?
That was MJ making stuff up.
Lord, and not until The Last Dance did Jordan ever admit that he made it up. He used to do it all the time.
But that was. I mean, again, that was that killer.
Ruined the man.
That was that killer. That was that killer in him. I mean, we haven't seen that. Who have we seen that in?
Okay, it's cool if he actually said that and you did it, but you just need to get so lathered up in your own mind that you just make it up and tell everybody that.
Whatever it takes, man. Whatever it takes, man. If you don't like the uniform, you don't like the uniform. You don't wear this. You don't like the shoes. Whatever it takes.
That's that Joey Porter mentality. Like, just you hear 2 words out of context, and all of a sudden you want to make it like it's just me against the world kind of a thing.
We all heard
the cool part about it is that Jordan didn't need it. And this was what, and
he did need it. Clearly he did need. Clearly, he did need that.
And on top of that, the Bradford Smith was one of those Jordan disciples, supposed to be the next, the second coming of.
Yeah, and that's why he needed to. That's why he needed to go out. That's why he needed to show
Gerald Minor was supposed to be baby Jordan. He was one of the Jordan disciples, and he just absolutely just.
We've all heard stories of Larry Bird walking into the 3-point shooting contest into the locker room, the warm ups, and said, "Which one of you guys is going to take second place today?"
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, you need that.
But no, the difference would be if Larry Bird said, "Ray Allen thought he was going to beat me, and was talking trash to me, so I just had to put him in his place."
I mean, we heard the story of Larry Bird telling Charles Barkley. He said, "You guys got a white dude on me? That's embarrassing. I'm insulted that you guys put a white dude on me." And when it commits to killing the Philadelphia 76ers.
And here's a funny Bird story that I didn't know. That what started that fight with him and Dr. J.
Because he kept calling I'm gonna hit you right here. I'm gonna hit you right here, Doc.
He was running down the court saying 42-6. 42-6. Clean up at 42-6. And he just I did not know that's what made Dr. J stop.
And Doc, unfortunately, Doc was passing. Doc couldn't turn it on. He didn't have another knob to go up to. And Larry Bird was
42-6 every time down the court.
I mean, so players. I mean, trash talk has been a part of the game forever, and players need that extra motivation to get turned on.
Yeah, you don't gotta lie about it, and certainly when you're like the best player in the league.
I mean, whatever it takes. Whatever.
Okay. No, that sounds like a Jordan night. That sounds like
whatever it takes to get it going.
I know.
Whatever it takes, man. Yeah, whatever. We ain't friends out here. I'm just gonna give you the business every game, and don't you dare open your mouth to talk about my cousin's daughter again.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah, I heard what you said.
Whatever it takes, fans. Thank you guys for tuning in. You guys are gonna get more of this conversation on Wednesday, so we can give it the full breath. Because I know Cleveland is gonna have notes, and is gonna. He might even try to get Tom to have a show on the show.
Spreadsheet fans. It just depends on how deep we want to.
I mean, you're gonna have to come with something because bring Rich Paul on. Look, we like to have Rich Paul on to explain kind of why all of a sudden this is coming to light. To explain from that angle. Why all of a sudden are they bringing this to light, or why is you and your guy Nick Wright trying to denounce what Jordan has already accomplished?
It's just uncovering the truth, Cameron. Sometimes the truth is a little bit different than it appears.
Okay. Again, fans, please tune in to Wednesday night, and we thank you guys for tuning in this Sunday afternoon. We got track and field tonight. Watch your track and field for Olympic qualifiers today. Cleveland, are you going to tune in to watch the WNBA? The Fever versus the Sky. You're going to get Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. Are you tuning into that?
I'm probably not going to tune into that, but I have noticed that gap has closed dramatically.
Right, significantly. Right? Yeah, sure.
And all of a sudden, the Fever are like on the better side of that one-loss thing than Chicago. So
they are. They're actually playing for playoff. They're going to be in the playoff discussion here pretty quickly with a few more W's. So that'll be interesting. But fans, once again, let's give Cleveland a round of applause. Fans, and give yourselves a round of applause for hanging with us today. As always, fans, I want to thank you guys for tuning into the Voice of the Fans podcast. This is just a little show, a little taste of our commentary, just to whet your palate, just to get you guys anticipating what we got next coming up. And thank you guys for tuning in as always. And as always, fans, thank you for making our voice your choice. Enjoy your weekend.